go. We are today going to be talking about 10-4, factoring to solve quadratic equations. The objective to solve quadratic equations of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Notice bx. So last section, 10-3, we talked about solving ax squared plus c. I'm adding this extra bx in here, and we're going to talk about it. And we're going to solve this by factoring, of course. So what are possible values of x? So our end goal here is to get it equal to 0, the whole left side. So anything times 0, such as 5 times 0, that equals 0. Or 0 times 2, for instance, that equals 0. So anything times 0 equals 0. So back to the problem at hand, x plus 3 times x minus 7. If you can get one of these parentheses equal to 0, then you're going to have 0 times some number, which will, in the end, equal 0. So looking at x plus 3, how do I get in the parentheses x plus 3, 0? If x was negative 3, that parenthesis, negative 3 plus 3 would be 0. So if x equals negative 3, plug it in. I have negative 3 plus 3, negative 3 minus 7 equals 0. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0 times negative 3 minus 7 is negative 10 equals 0. Good. 0 times negative 10 is 0. Awesome. Check. Good. That worked. So x does equal negative 3. And then what else over here, red parentheses, x minus 7, x would have to be positive 7 because 7 minus 7 is 0, and 0, 7 plus 3 is 10, so it would be 10 times 7 minus 7 is 0 equals 0. Yep, good. So the second part I did a little quicker, just kind of more mental math. All right, so answers, x minus 3, x equals 7. So you can just list them like that, negative 3, comma 7. Good. So this is our whole goal today. We're going to be talking about solving and getting an equation equal to 0. All right, so same situation. We have x times x minus 5. In the parentheses here, x minus 5, how do I get that to be 0? If x equals 5, because 5 minus 5 is 0, x would be 5, so it would be 5 times 5 minus 5 equals 0. 5 minus 5 in the parentheses is 0, so 5 times 0 equals 0. Obviously, 5 times 0 is 0. Yes, that worked. Great. So, yes, x equals 5. And x can also equal 0, because if I plug 0 in, you get 0 times 0 minus 5 equals 0 times negative 5 equals 0. Good. So 0 times negative 5 is obviously 0. So x equals 5 and 0. Now, let's see, something I didn't necessarily hit on, I hit it on, I think, 10-3, is if you have ax squared plus bx plus c, that's a quadratic. Every single quadratic is to the exponent 2. That means, when it's raised to that second power, that means there's going to always be 2 answers. Notice we have x equals 5, x equals 0. That's 2 different answers. Last section we had like x equals positive and negative 2. Positive 2, negative 2, those are 2 different answers. All right, so back to, ax squared plus bx plus c. So the rule of thumb follows, is the biggest exponent on the variable, such as x squared, that's a 2, that means there's 2 answers. So if I gave you something, so this is completely separate, but if I gave you something such as, x to the 12th power plus x, to the 10th power, equals, 1,000 or whatever, okay? So I have a big polynomial equals some number. That means when I write all of my solutions down, x equals 5, 0, 10, 5, 6, negative 6, whatever, I'm going to have a total of 12 solutions for x. All right? So just think about that. Polynomials, we're dealing with quadratics. It's x ax squared plus bx plus c. That means there's going to have 2 answers. So the reason I'm telling you that is because basically on all of these problems, if you don't come up with an x value of 2 numbers, so in this case 5 and 0, then you're doing something wrong. You need to go back, reevaluate what you did. Now, 2 answers could be plus and minus 2, so a positive and then a negative 2. Those are two different numbers. All right, there's very, very few times you get, the same number. All right. So back to this problem, I have 5x, x plus 9. So in the parentheses, x plus 9. How do I get x plus 9, 0? Make x negative 9. And then I need 2 answers. So 5 times x right here. 5 times x equals 0. X would have to be 0 because 5 times 0 is 0. Good. All right, so now let's get into factoring. So ax squared plus bx plus 4. Factoring covered last chapter. You better remember how to factor, right? So factors of 4, 1 and 4, 2 and 2, which combination adds up to be negative 5, right there. Negative 1 plus negative 4 gives you that negative 5 in the center. All right, so make your little parentheses. I have x minus 1 minus 4. I'm not going to go over how to do that. That's in chapter 9. All right, so I have x minus 1, x minus 4 equals 0. Now I find the possible values of x. So x equals positive 1 and 4. Because right here, x minus 1, how do I get that 0? Well, if I put a 1 in for x, it's going to be 1 minus 1, which is 0. And then, and then here, x minus 4, if I plug a 4 in for x, I have 4 minus 4, which is 0. Good. So x is 1 and 4, both positives. Good. Notice I have 2 answers. Notice right here, exponent of 2, that means I have 2 answers. In this scenario, 1 and 4. All right, so here's a situation where I have x squared plus 7x equals negative 12. Before I factor, I need to take that negative 12 and bring it to the left-hand side. So I need to add 12 to both sides. So I have x squared plus 7x plus 12 equals 0. Negative 12 plus 12 goes to 0. Good. Now I can factor. So factors of, so I know this is going to be x. This is going to be x as well. So factors of 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6. Sorry, that does not even look like a 12 at all. So 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. I'm looking for a combination to add up to the middle b there, which is 7. So I'm going to go with 3 and 4. 3 plus 4 is 7. So both positive, so plus 3 plus 4. Good. Oops, plus 4. All right, so now this equals 0. That's key right there. So how do I get this to be 0? If x is negative 3 plus 3, good. So negative 3, and then x plus 4, how do I get that 0? If x is negative 4. Good. Now, if you really want to, you can take that x plus 4. I'm going to go to the left here, x plus 4. And if you don't see that it is negative 4, that'll make it 0, set this equal to 0 and just solve for x. So minus 4 on both sides, minus 4 on both sides, x equals negative 4. So you can do that if you want. That's kind of the long way to do it, to pull each parenthesis out individually. So if you did that way, you'd pull x plus 3 out and go x plus 3 equals 0, minus 3 on both sides, x equals negative 3. But most of you will be able to look at x plus 4 and go, if x is negative 4, that goes to 0. 0 times anything, 0. Bam, done. So if you can do it in your head, great. If you can't, write it down, all right? All right, so solve for x. So same situation here. We have 5x squared minus 15 equals negative 10x. We need to bring that negative 10x to the other side, so add 10x to both sides. Now, be careful on this because it equals 0, great. But when we add 10x, you need to put it in standard form. So it needs to be 5x squared plus 10x minus 15. So you need to put that 10x in the center. All right? Now we can factor it. All right? Equals 0. And factors of 15, 1 and 15, 3 and 5, good. And then factors of 5, 1 and 5. Now I'm going to look for a combination, give me positive 10. I'm going to end up going with this right here. So 5 times 1 is 5. 15 times 1 is 15. If I make that 5 a negative and 15 positive, I add those together. Negative 5 plus 15 gives me that positive 10. So I'm going to go ahead and put my numbers in here. Again, if you don't remember how to do this, go back to chapter 9 and look it up. Good. Oops. Let's see. 5x minus 15. Sorry. Getting ahead of myself here. Plus 15x. Sorry, 15. Sorry. There. Good. Got it. So I have x minus 1 times 5x plus 15. And again, you can, if you really want, so back to factor, you can factor this. I mean, you can multiply this together, x minus 1, 5x plus 15, and you can get this original statement, 5x squared plus 10x minus 15. So you can always check your factoring, basically. All right, so how do I make this 0? X minus 1. Well, if I plug a 1 in for x, I get 1 minus 1, which is 0, so x is 1. And then 5x plus 15. You know, this one, I can't, well, I know what the answer is, but it's harder to see, so you can take that 5x plus 15, that equal to 0. That will give me the value that x needs to be. So minus 15 on both sides. Good. So 5x equals negative 15. Divide by 5, divide by 5. Great. X equals 15 divided by 5, which is negative 3. Great. So x is 1 and negative 3. Good. So the whole idea here is just finding values of x that will help you solve making this equation set equal to 0. That quadratic 5x squared plus 10x minus 15 equals 0. When does that whole quadratic equal 0?